Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise podcast. It's Thursday. I wasn't going to do a second podcast this week, but just some incredible things happened, and I had to quickly hop on. I don't think this will be a real long one, and talk about them. I mean, first of all, I need to take credit for Dansby Swanson's resurgence at the plate. I demanded that he be dropped to 8th in the order, and Craig Counsell, of course, a longtime subscriber to the Pointless Exercise newsletter. I'm sure he goes back to the DeCipio days, probably when he was at Notre Dame. First game after I made that demand, Dansby, 8-hole against Pittsburgh. 6 hits in his next 11 at bats with 2 homers. Now, I don't know what's happened to Dansby's defense. He hadn't made an error since last August the 8th, and he hadn't made an error before that since last April. So he'd gone a full big league season, more than 162 games, without an error. And on Wednesday night, he made the right play. It just didn't work. He slid to try to keep a ball on the infield, and it hit him in the knee, and it bounced and rolled into right field. And the tying and lead run scored for Pittsburgh, and they ended up winning the game. And then he made an actual error in the game on Thursday. They were trying to turn a 3-6-3 double play with O'Neill Cruz running, which is don't even bother. And Michael Busch made a weird throw to short. It was kind of a changeup, but it hit Dansby right in the mid. And Dansby was hurrying, trying to get the return throw off. It wasn't going to happen. He made an error. But he said he much better, and I'd like to take all the credit for it. So you're all welcome. But that pales in comparison to what I was greeted with this morning. I checked Blue Sky, and a reader, Biblical Losses. That's his handle on Blue Sky. It's not. I don't think it's actually Tom Reed. I really don't. He apparently had searched for Neifi Perez on Google, and the results astounded him. So I'm going to set this up the right way. Back in what year did I write this? Back in 2018, I worked diligently and I assembled a oral history called Neifi Saves the Season. It was about the 2005 Cubs season. Neifi had arrived late in 2004 as Nomar Insurance, because Nomar had come in to play shortstop and he was chronically injuring himself. So they got Neifi. Neifi actually played okay at the end of 2004. But the beginning of 2005, he's just hot as shit. Making a bid for the All-Star game. Filling in for Nomar, who had ruptured his groin in St. Louis. One of the most gruesome baseball injuries you'll ever see. It was just, it's terrible. Anyway, so we got a lot of Neifi, way too much. Like, he started off really well. He was playing well into June, and then he remembered he was Neifi Perez, and it all went to hell. But one of the things I had noticed during you couldn't not notice it, was how often Neifi went to the pitcher's mound. Like, he was constantly there, like, talking to the pitcher, giving advice to the pitcher, fucking around with the rosin bag. He was always there. I am not exaggerating. He would do it 6 or 7 times a game. And so when I was putting together the oral history, and I had all these guys to talk to, as I spared no expense, no rock was left uncovered. And when I picked one rock up, Kyle's Farnsworth literally crawled out from under. I got the true story of Neifi and the rosin bag. Now, what I should have done, Ken Burns style, I should have hired several actors to voice this part of the oral history, but you're just stuck with me. And I'm not going to try to do funny voices for all of them. That's not what we wanted. But anyway, so I'll just read the name of the person talking and then their quote, and we'll figure this out. But I want to read this section. Then we're going to go back and we'll revisit the Google result from this morning, because it's a doozy. All right, so this is there's just finished the part where Ed Hardig was talking about how Dusty finished May hitting 301. And it really hot from the he had been hitting 368 at the end of April, and he was down to 301. So anyway, but now we're getting to the point about the rosin bag. That's what we want to talk about. So Kerry Wood, Cubs pitcher. He goes, okay, the Neifi mound visit thing, that's my fault. Carlos Zambrano, Cub pitcher. Neifi was cool, but during the game, he'd come visit the mound like 5 or 6 times. I'd be ready to pitch, and he'd be standing right behind me. I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? And here's Neifi. I picked up a lot of stuff in the pitchers' meetings in spring training, and as a team leader, I felt it was my responsibility to remind the pitcher of certain things. Plus, as a shortstop, I can see all the pitch signals, and if we're all on the same page, I can position myself better, and that helps the defense. I mean, that's good stuff, right? Way to go, Neifi. Here's what Carlos said to that. He said that? Bullshit. He was checking to see if there was food on the mound. Greg Maddux. I can't tell you how many times I'd be ready to pitch, and Neifi would be standing on the mound. He was always holding the rosin bag. Kerry Wood. Yeah, I may have told him that the baseball had to deal with Hostess that year, and they'd pick a random inning and replace the rosin bag with one of those snowball cake things. I guess he believed me. And that's nice. In the oral history, I actually found a publicity photo, like not a publicity photo for a snowball, but there's a lovely artistic shot of a Hostess snowball. If you don't know what they are, they were coconut and marshmallow covered cake with a creamy filling. There you go. And they were mostly white, but you could get different. You can still, you still get them, and you can get them different colors. But white is a snowball, right? Kind of like Peeps. They don't all have to be yellow. They make them all kinds of different flavors and colors. Okay, so Neifi's not going to explain. He's going to talk about the thing. Kerry had told him, hey, could be a delicious treat on the mound once in a while. You might want to check it out. Neifi. Okay, I can get sweaty. And so I go to the mound once in a while to use the rosin bag and to talk strategy with the pitcher. And one time early in the season, the rosin bag was a snowball, and I took it back to my position and ate it. I mean, this is great. I mean, this is much better than what do they do now? Like they have Tasty Trade, superimposed on the back of the mound and stuff. No, this was Hostess actually put food on the mound for the players. This is great. Terry Lang, Vice President of Sponsorships at Major League Baseball. We never had a deal with Hostess like that. If Mr. Perez ate a rosin bag in 2005, he ate a real rosin bag. Oh, now we've got intrigue. Tom Farinella, who in 2018 was the Cubs umpire locker room attendant. Maybe still is. I don't know. Jimmy Farrell was still the umpire locker room attendant in 2005. He didn't retire until 2007. He told me that one time that year the rosin bag went missing. Nobody knew what happened to it. Neifi. I know the difference between a delicious pastry and a rosin bag. I ate a Hostess snowball. Kerry Wood. He ate a rosin bag. It was great. And clearly, he wanted to do it again. Larry Rothschild, Cubs pitching coach. We couldn't keep him off the mound. He was there sometimes 2 or 3 times an inning. If we had the mound visit rule back then, we'd have been out of visits by the 3rd inning most nights. I'd ask the pitchers what he said to them, and most of the time, he'd grab the rosin bag, lick it, and say, go get him. I thought maybe we had a Turk Wendell situation, so I never said anything to him about the bag licking. Now, Larry, don't call it bag licking. That kind of connotes something else. Neifi. It was a pretty shitty promotion if they only put the snowball out there one time all year. But hey, at least I got it that day. Kerry Wood laughs. So there you go. The definitive account of the rosin bag Hostess snowball thing. Look at all the people that I talked to. I mean, I did my research. For God's sakes, I found Terry Lang, the vice president of sponsorships at MLB. All right, so now you're like, what does this have to do with anything? This morning, when Biblical Losses Googled Neifi, he got their AI overview of his result. And here's what it says. Neifi Perez, known for his glove work, was frequently seen at the pitcher's mound during his time with the Chicago Cubs, even leading the National League in unsolicited mound visits for 3 years. He would visit the mound to use rosin, talk strategy with the pitcher, and once even ate a Snowball rosin bag. Snowball capitalized because it's Hostess Snowball. Amazing. So if you want to know how reliable Google's AI overviews are, they scrubbed the internet for a fake oral history on Neifi Perez in the 2005 Cubs. And they treated it like it was complete fact. It's like finding the Dead Sea Scrolls. I don't know whether to be proud or horrified or both. I'm both, actually. I'm very proud that Google took that so seriously and horrified that people are searching for things. And this is what the Google search has come to. It's not good at all. But there you have it. I had a bunch of oral histories. One of my favorites, I wrote about this the other day, was the 97 Cubs and the horrible start. And that one, it's a phony baloney oral history, just like the rest of them, except I interviewed Dave Kaplan because Cap had to, he made some horrible bet on Sports Central or whatever that he would live in the WGN remote van parked across the street from Wrigley until the Cubs won a game. And he thought, they're going to win in a day or two. And it went on for like a week. And so his quotes in that oral history are real. Everybody else's are made up. But his are real. I just loved writing those things. And, but then when I got, when I got hired at The Athletic, I probably wasn't allowed to make up the oral histories there. I should never tried it. I should have tried it. It would be canon now because Google's AI would have said, no, this is real. That's a real thing. So there you go. I really enjoyed that. And I was like, I'm doing a podcast today because I want the world to know that the reason if you Googled Neifi, you get that he ate a Snowball rosin bag is because I wrote about it 7 years ago and Google believes it. Congratulations. So as I'm recording this, the Cubs won 2 out of 3 in Pittsburgh. Should have won all 3, but 2 out of 3 is not bad. As Meatloaf and Joe Madden, and as it turns out, me would say. I've been talking about, I'm not shy about talking about this only because it's going to force me to finish it. I don't want to get into the whole thing. You guys heard about this on the last podcast about the book that I wrote in 2003. It's a compilation of columns, and I'm reassembling it. And I have to reread my old writing. Some of it is just, oh my God. But some of it's pretty funny. It's funny when I just make myself laugh out loud 22 years later. Like, this guy is pretty good. I will tell you that 22 years ago, I was referring to the Cubs winning 2 out of 3 as a meatloaf. So Joe ripped me off, not the other way around. Not the only Joe to rip me off. Just like Joe from Obvious Shirts. You can go way back, and there's while watching the Phillies in the playoffs, I wrote Chase Utley's good at baseball. And I was way ahead with Jake Arrieta is good at baseball. This predates Obvious Shirts. So when you buy one of those good as baseball shirts, please send me $1 because I deserved it. But anyway, 2 out of 3, and Dansby's hitting, which is nice. Carson Kelly's batting cleanup, which seems reckless. I had suggested it too. It's like, I mean, he's not. Sahadev wrote a long thing today. Oh, well, when does he ever not write a long thing? But I'm not disparaging Sahadev's content. It's just, it tends to be verbose and long and analytical for analytical's sake. I don't think I said that right, so I probably should stop making fun of it. But he's talking about there's a definitive swing change, which has turned Carson Kelly into a productive hitter. And I hope it's true. I'm skeptical. I think any big league player, if you're good enough to get to the big leagues, you have the ability to get hot for a while. Not every player does it. But I think that ability is there. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say Carson Kelly is just playing out of his ass right now. And the real Carson Kelly will show up. I'm in no hurry to see it because this is fine. And who knows how long it can go. I mean, for Neifi, it made it through May. So there you go. It's maybe another month of this. And then in a few years, I can write a Carson Kelly saved the season fake oral history, which will be fun for everybody. Maybe the only disturbing thing, well, there are a couple of disturbing things happened. While we were doing the podcast on Tuesday night, Shota left the game early, and as panic ensued. Already lost Justin Steele. He can't lose Shota. And, we're doing the podcast, so I can't hear what's going on. Plus, it didn't matter because of who the announcer was. We'll get to that in a second. But first it was like, okay, I'm just watching the replays. The ball was hit to the outfield. He kind of went off the mound. He thought about going back up home plate, and he didn't. And he just didn't look comfortable. And I'm like, well, I don't think this looks like an arm thing. It looks like something leg, which is good. And then he showed him grabbing his hamstring. I thought, well, maybe he pulled a hamstring, which wouldn't have been great, but it's certainly better than catching the Tommy John disease. But now it's turned out that it was cramps, and it was actually happening in both legs. And that's great news. I really hope we can believe it, only because I have no reason to not believe Shota. I don't think Shota would lie to us. And Shota insisted after the game that everything was fine. He was worried that if he kept cramping, that it would affect his pitching and he might do something weird and not only not be successful, but also he might hurt himself. And that's true. I mean, that's everything he did was right. It's just that the Cub doctors are so incompetent that I worry. I worry they don't know something as simple as, it's a cramp. Remember when Carlos Zambrano used to get, and they showed it like on the mound one time, his hand like cramped and it was like balling up like a claw and he couldn't. And they turned out some of it was from playing. He wasn't the Guitar Hero guy, right? He was just playing. There was some baseball player playing too much Guitar Hero. And he had to go on the injured list. They call it Nintendoitis, even though at the time probably not playing Nintendo, but it is funny. It's funny what happens to somebody else. But anyway, so the Shota that seems like it's going to be fine. Cubs went on; they won that game, so all's well that ends well. We even got a Ryan Presley appearance today. Cubs fucked the closer with 3 runs in the top of the 9th, so it wasn't a save, but he came in and pitched. He's only pitched. All right, fine. I'm just going to get to the Alex Cohen thing right now because there's a couple of things that just so he said they're just talking about how Presley has only pitched once since April 20th because of he's got an issue with his knee. They had to drain some fluid out of it. And so they're talking about, he hasn't really pitched very much once. That's once in the last 11 days that he had pitched. I believe it was 27th. And then Alex goes, well, after a rough start, he's on a hot streak. He's 9 scoreless appearances. Is he really on the hot streak still, considering he's pitched once in the last 11 days? Is that how it counts? You just stay on that roll even when you're not pitching? I mean, factually, yes. How it was presented, no. You can't act like this means anything, considering he hasn't pitched and he might not be physically right. He pitched fine, so hopefully that's good. The other thing he did today was Alex Cohen, Thumbo. He Porter Hodge came in and immediately gave up a hit. And then there was the error on Dansby, so there were runners at first and second, and then runner got to third, and he did minimize the damage, but he did not pitch well. But he only gave up a run. And Alex Cohen, as Porter is leaving the field, says, Porter made an... Oh, that's right. I don't think that was it. That was the ending with the error, but Porter almost made an error. Andrew McCutcheon hit the ball right back to him, and he fielded it, and then he did the, weird John Lester, I don't know if I can throw to the bases thing. And he just gobbed the ball over, and I just hung up in the air. And Bush had to leave the bag to catch it and then run back to the bag. Thankfully, McCutchen was not running at all, which was not a great look for Andrew McCutchen, considering if he had run half speed, I don't know that Bush could have got back in time to get him out, but he was out by a lot because he didn't run. And I got to hit the ball back to the pitcher, but let's not assume things. Especially when you're the DH, and you're going to run, if you're lucky, you're going to run 4 times that day. You can't give me 4 sprints. Anyway, so he gave up a run. He walked a guy. He gave up a leadoff single. He almost threw the ball into the stands on a routine ball back. What does Alex Cohen say when Porter gets the third out? Great job by Porter Hodge. Oh, God damn, this is not a great job. This is like Boog screaming, what a great at bat by Manny Machado when he hit the home run where he had hit a foul ball to right field that I called him Michael Tucker again. The longer we get in the season, the more I call him Mike. I was really good at the beginning there. Kyle Tucker dropped for an error. It was that easy that the official scorer gave him an error. He then pops up to the catcher, and I think it was Amaya. It could have been Kelly. They kind of lost track of it, and Gage had to come sprinting in, and the ball clanked off his glove, and he got an error, which honestly really wasn't Gage's fault. He was trying to save the catcher, but the Cubs had botched the play. Someone deserved an error, and it went to Gage. It's like the old Bad News Bears. Well, it's an error on the throw, but not on the shortstop because he wasn't there. That's kind of like it's an error on the third baseman because the catcher wasn't there. And then he hits a home run. Well, it's not a great at bat. It's an interesting at bat. It's a holy shit, how did that happen thing. But he had popped out twice in the at bat before the home run. So that's not a great at bat. Anyway, I don't know why Alex Cohen is working this week. Right? Like, where's Boog? Any explanation as to why he just didn't go to Pittsburgh? I assume now it's because 3 games in Pittsburgh, then they tomorrow night in Milwaukee, it's an Apple TV Plus game, so Boog wouldn't work that game. So my guess is he's not going to be there Saturday or Sunday, because why would you come? You're going to just work Saturday and then go to wherever Sunday Night Baseball is, which is not Cubs Brewers. The only reason I wish it was it would be another less Thumbo game. So I don't know where Boog is, but I do know I know where Alex Cohen is, and unfortunately he's parked behind a microphone again. It's so bad. I can't take it. I thought about bringing this up when Oleg had sent me a copy of a Blue Sky message tweet. We can call it a tweet, right? Because Twitter doesn't want to call theirs tweets anymore. We can call these tweets. This is actually from a couple of weeks ago. No, a week ago. He thought this was hilarious to send this to me. He did not write this. I'll tell you who wrote it in a second. Someone posted. It's been so awesome to see all the things that made Alex Cohen a damn good minor league broadcaster translate seamlessly into him being a damn good major league broadcaster. He's really, really good at this and hitting a stride without a hitch. I know that's a guy's opinion. There's no right or wrong, but that's wrong. It's so wrong. It's not. He sucks. Alex Cohen is bad. Alex Cohen is a bad minor league announcer. So the things that made him a bad minor league announcer translate seamlessly into him being a bad major league broadcaster. He's really, really not good at this and is hitching all over and will never catch a stride. That's what it actually should have said, because I don't know how you can objectively listen to that, any of it, and think it's any damn good at all. He doesn't shut up. He mostly babbles. He gives analysis when he's sitting next to Jim DeShays, who is paid to do the analysis, and it's the only guy we want to hear do it. I don't need to hear him yell great pitch. Especially there was one of the Cubs hung a curveball, but it froze the batter. Like, that thing should have been hit 800 feet. Great pitch. Well, the result was great. The execution, I don't think, was anything what that pitcher wanted to do, but fine. Keep chiming in. And then there was a really challenging thing that happened on Wednesday night, which was on the play where the Pirates took the lead. Dansby did his little kicks, fires. Where was Boog? Ground ball to Dansby. Kicks, fires it into right field for a double. All of a sudden, you had Pirates manager, what's his name? The guy from Chicago. I can't think of his name with the beard. Shelton. Derek Shelton. There it is. Like you can literally hear the little guy in my brain finally find the right file out of the cabinet. Go Shelton. Derek Shelton. Derek Shelton runs out, gets attention of the umpire. Craig Counsell runs out, gets attention of the umpire. They're both pointing to right field. Something clearly is happening, and no one is talking on the marquee broadcast. There is just silence. Finally, there's silence. The problem is, it's something the cameras clearly are not going to show us. So at home, we need to know what's going on. And there's a way to do it, right? He didn't have to get like graphic about it, but he didn't say anything. So we didn't know what was going on. Finally, Jim DeShays jumps in. Is basically like, well, I guess this dipshit's not going to say anything. So Jim hops in and he starts to explain what happened. Apparently a fan fell out of the right. I laugh. It's not funny. But a fan fell out of the right field stands, which I don't know how high they are. I do know that the wall is in right field is 21 feet tall to honor Roberto Clemente when there's now one of those like spiked seltzer things as an ad out there instead. But anyways, it's 21 feet. And then the seats are above that. So let's say it's 25 feet. Somebody fell out of that onto the warning track, and that's not good. And then apparently somebody jumped down. And one of their friend or their whatever, like to join them. Like I would think maybe don't do that. Unless you want to like share the cost of the ambulance. But apparently that person got down without, serious injury. But we didn't know what was going on, right? And to me, that's the job, right? Like you didn't have to give gory details. You could say, oh my God, there's, someone apparently has fallen out of the right field stands and is injured on the warning track. And then you can shut up. You don't have to give play-by-play. You don't have to describe the ambulance coming in, and you don't have to, whatever. But we didn't know what happened. And that's really your only job. And I know he does a lot of radio. What would he have done if he's working by himself on the radio? Would he just sat there for 30 seconds and not said anything? He's not good at it. And the only joke I wanted to come up with a joke, but I didn't want it to be too mad. I just say, hey, at least if Boog was working, we would have got a description of the injured person's shoes. So anyway, I have fear we're stuck with at least 2 more days of Alex Cohen over the weekend. I would think Saturday and Sunday are Cohen specials up in Milwaukee. Those games in Milwaukee are rough enough anyway because the lighting in Miller Park looks weird on TV. Like, there's something about some of these domes. The stadium that the Rangers play in is really poorly presented on TV, right? Like, it looks like there's nothing behind, like there's nobody behind the plate, and it's always darker than it should be in there. And it's this, Milwaukee has this like weird kind of haze. Like day games look fine there, although it still cracks me up that they don't have a camera that can shoot into the right field corner. So when the ball if the ball rolls in the right field corner, you can't see it anywhere. Like there's nothing they can cut to that shows where the ball is. But they always look weird. And then you get the weird angsty Brewer fans that are pissed that there are Cub fans there, and there's Cub fans who, enjoy pissing off the Brewer fans that they're there, and they're all hammered because Miller Park is a really fun place to like go and tailgate, and the food at Miller Park is really good. And anyway, it looks weird. Now it's going to sound weird too because we're stuck with him, but that's fine. Just so Praz knows, I'm going to make fun of him in 2 weeks when we do the next podcast because it's May 1st, and today he was not just scoreboard watching for the Cubs. he was really, really invested in the White Sox beating the Brewers and the Reds beating the Cardinals for positioning for the Cubs. It's like, man, if you can't start worrying about that stuff in May, on May 1st, no less. None of this stuff really, just all you need is the Cubs just need to win games. You don't have to worry about the other stuff. That's a pointless exercise. Hence the name of the podcast and the newsletter. The Reds did beat the Cardinals. Cardinals had swept them in a doubleheader the day before. The Brewers lost to the White Sox. Now I understand it was like fun to watch the White Sox or the Brewers get beat by the White Sox, for God's sakes. And then Colin Whitchurch had a stat that there's only 2 teams in baseball that have won 7 games by more than 7 runs, and it's the Cubs and the White Sox. And the Cubs have 19 wins, and the White Sox have 8. So unless they beat you by 7, chances are they're not going to win. They've only won 1 game. They didn't win by 7 runs. Kind of amazing. Sox 8-23. But I don't know. We might want to put Will Venable on firing watch because according to Pythagoras, they should be 13-18, underachieving by 5 games. But that's because of all the 7-run wins. It screws up the run differential. They're terrible. They've lost more games than everybody except the Rockies. And it's really not. Those are the only teams. Rockies are 5-25. And the White Sox are 8-23. Nobody else has 20 losses. So those two are going to lap the field. I don't think any. Oh, sorry. I didn't scroll up high enough. The Pirates have 20 losses. I think this was an Alex Cohen stat, so I want to give him credit because I think I did enjoy this one. Against Paul Skeens today, the Cubs had more homers than they struck out. They only struck out twice against Skeens, and there were only 2 strikeouts they had in the whole game. And they had 3 homers off of it. So that's good. The only Paul Skeens thing I'm ever going to remember is that the first 2 hits he gave up in the big leagues were both to Miles Mastrobuoni. And at the time, they were Miles' 2nd and 3rd hits of the year. He was exactly catching a red hot. Although I don't know that Miles has ever been red hot. So that could be it. But yeah, it's a little too early to be worried about the other teams, how the other teams are doing. Cardinals are 14-18, I believe. They are 10-5 at home, and they are 4-13 on the road, and that includes a doubleheader sweep the other day. So they only won. I'm gonna do some quick math here. They'd only won 2 of their first 14 road games. They're bad. So I'm not gonna worry about them at all. The Reds are frisky. Ironically, the Reds are not hitting. They're pitching, which you're not supposed to be able to do in that park. Also, Terry Francona got his water shut off. Did you notice in the house he's renting? He thought it was on auto pay and it wasn't. And he came home and there was a note on the door and his water had been shut off. And he's like, well, I can just take a shower at the park. What do I need water for? He's the best. So anyway, there's that. I was looking at the Rockies, maybe think of the fact that Chris Bryant, not surprisingly, on the injured list again, and apparently he has not only does he have a degenerative, easy for me to say, disc in his back, he has a disease that caused it to go bad. It's one of those guys where like, well, if he ever gets healthy again, obviously he could play. I just don't know he's ever going to get healthy, especially now. I mean, it's like, this isn't just like, oh, he's unlucky, pulls a hamstring, pulls whatever. I mean, now he's got like his spine falling apart. I guess he was too tall to play third base after all. Lucky we got out of him what we did. It's terrible because he's such an awesome guy. One of our all-time favorites. And he should have just been able to go to Colorado and enjoy himself on a terrible team by taking advantage of that park in the atmosphere and putting up huge numbers, and it's never going to happen, which is really, really sad. But while that's sad, we can enjoy the rejuvenation of another of our favorites. And the newsletter I wrote on Monday was about Pete Crow, and how the cool part of that trade is we traded our favorite player, as if we were in the room with Jed. The Cubs traded our favorite player, and they ended up getting our new favorite player back. And I don't think everybody's favorite player was Trevor Williams, but I do think Javi Baez was a lot of people's favorite. And Javi, who had been terrible for the Tigers in this first 3 years of a huge contract, is showing real signs of being good again. And I really enjoy that because I want Javi to be good. When he went to the Mets, as part of the trade, he got off to a slow start, and they had the weird thing where the fans were booing them because they weren't winning, and so they were going to boo the fans. And they had this whole weird thing, and then he lost his earring at home plate, and they had to get a search party out to look for it. Well, after the whole booing thing, he got hot, and he played well for them. He ended up 299, 371, 515, 886 OPS, 140 OPS plus in 47 games for the Mets. Hit 9 homers, driven 22 runs. He did strike out 53 times in 47 games. Well, he struck out 131 times for the Cubs in 91 games. Holy shit. And he struck out 184. No, 184, that was the year. He led the National League in strikeouts. It's the only time he's ever led the league in strikeouts. It took 2 teams to do it. Signed a big deal with the Tigers and just wasn't very good. 17 homers, 67 RBIs his first year. He hit 238, 278 on base, 393 slug. It wasn't even league average, 91 OPS plus. But he was 2.4 WAR because he was still playing pretty good defense at short. Well, in 2023, nothing worked. He hit 222 with a 267 on base, a 325 slug, 593 OPS, and a 63 OPS plus, which, if you want to know what a 63 OPS plus was, that was Dansby before he got demoted. That's how bad. That was a whole season of Javi doing what Dansby did early this year. Not good. And then last year, terrible. Absolutely terrible. In 23, he was worth 0.8 wins above replacement. So barely above replacement player. In 2024, he was a sub replacement player, minus 1.1. You were better off and they were paying him $28 million a year or something like that, and you'd have been better, 25, and you would have been better off with nobody. Well, not with nobody. You've been better off with a league minimum, just a league average, league minimum player. But this year, now he's not playing shortstop exclusively. He's playing some short. He's playing some third. He's playing a lot of center. He's kind of become their regular center fielder. 296, 337, 407, 745. It's a 114 OPS plus. And the power looks like it's starting to come back. He's starting to get extra base hits again. Early in the year, it was all singles, but they were just happy because he wasn't making outs at an alarming rate. He's not going to have a high on base. He's Javi. Javi's career on base is 294. It was 303 in his 8 years with the Cubs. 371 in his quarter season with the Mets. And then it's been 267 for the Tigers. But he is above a replacement again, already worth almost a win above replacement after just a month and a week or whatever we're on. So it's just nice to see. And hopefully Javi keeps it up. He has 2 years left on his deal after this. So he probably becomes tradable either at the break or after if the Tigers are willing to eat a big chunk of that. But he may be now to the point in the deal, like when they get to July, where they have 2 months and 2 years left, where they feel like, if they want to move on from him, they probably feel like, all right, we can eat some money, right? We don't have to eat, it's 2 years of eating it now, not 3 or 4. Now, last year, there were reports that he right after the trade deadline, there was a report that his stuff had been packed up in the clubhouse in Comerica, not the bank, the stadium. I don't think. Do you have to work? Do they make him work at the bank too? And or you're employees of Comerica now and the Tigers, so you'll have a regular shift as a teller. Can you count by ones, fives, tens, 20s? Anyway, and a lot of people, not just me, thought, oh my God, they're DFAing him. And then I wanted him to get through waivers for the Cubs to claim him. Because honestly, I really wish that would happen. I'd claim him tomorrow to play third base for the rest of the year for the Cubs. Especially if the Tigers are paying the freight. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? But it turned out he was having hip surgery. Because that had really been the reason for his terrible 24 and probably for half of his terrible 23. That's when it started to bother him. And so now, healthier, he's still only 32 years old. Javi's playing better. So I'm happy to see that. I hope it continues. For no reason, then I don't know how you can be a Cub fan who lived through the World Series run and not love Javier Baez. So the Cubs are going to Milwaukee for the weekend. They're 2-1 in the division because these Pirates games were the first time they got to play the NL Central. And you're going to want to play the NL Central because they're not very good. And the Cubs get a lot of games against them. And Ian Happ certainly enjoyed going back to Pittsburgh. Now, Ian's played well for like 2.5 weeks. And Perez even, I would talk about Perez even when he's not here. Was basically like, well, see, he's going to play so well, even Andy's going to have to admit he likes him. No, I don't have to admit that. Like, I don't want him to fail. I want him to succeed, because when he succeeds, I don't want anyone on the Cubs to suck. I just don't like him. So there's that. So the schedule is weird in that they're through now with they had a bunch of off days therefore, which was good. That part of that was them catching up because of the Japan trip. They had off days on either side of those Dodger games that were kind of like extra off days, which I'm sure the players appreciated because play a lot of games in a row. But on this road trip, 3 games in Pittsburgh, which they just finished. Now 3 games in Milwaukee. Then they come home to play the Giants for 3, but then they go play the Mets in New York. And then they come home again to play the Marlins and the White Sox. So it's just odd to go 6 on the road, 3 at home, 3 on the road, 6 more at home. And I am glad, even though it means 3 games at U.S. Comiscular too, or guaranteed third-rate park, whatever that thing's called now. They're back to your rival. You play them 6 times instead of 4, so it should be 2 extra wins for the Cubs, hopefully. Because in previous years you played everybody, you played all the other interleague teams 3 times, and then you played your rival in home and away 2-game sets. But now you play everybody 3 times in the other league, except for your rival, who you play 6 times. So we got that going for us, which is nice. The last thing I want to talk about was the ever-shifting bullpen, which I get it. I mean, there's a lot of out there. And we got to see Tom Cosgrove for a day, and then he went back, and they had 3 lefties for a game. It was interesting. And now they're back to regular. But so I talked about this on the last podcast that I did, on the one I did last week. Drew Pomerantz, the 36-year-old reclamation project, it was one of 2 things were going to happen. Either he was going to come in and just be old and bad and get lit up from the very beginning, or he would be really good to the point where we're like, oh, good, this is really going to work. And we really need this guy. And then he'll hurt himself. Well, option 2 is still in play. I hope it's option 3, which is he just turns out to be pretty good. And, the fact he hasn't pitched since in 5 years, maybe he's just really well rested. He's looked really good, like throwing hard and good command. He has allowed He's pitched 3 1/3. He hasn't given up a hit. He's walked 1. He struck out 3. He's throwing hard. They're very careful about how they use him, which they should be. He hasn't worked back-to-back, and I don't know when they'll get to that. So he gets plenty of days off. But when your other lefty is Caleb Thielbar, and I know Caleb, he had some bad luck in the loss to the Pirates. I think it had to be Reynolds. On an 0-2 pitch, he threw a really nice fastball inside off the plate, and somehow Reynolds got around on it and doubled. Like it was a good pitch. He just got hit. But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like he's old and bad. 10 strikeouts and 11 innings. That's good. 6 hits. That's fine. 7 walks. That's not so fine. So tighten it up, old man. Otherwise, we're gonna just have to start going to the other old man. We have a lefty that doesn't get a discount at McDonald's. No, that's fine. Well, Cosgrove, I guess. Anyways, we talked about on Tuesday night. This is a very good start for the Cubs, but it's really actually a game worse than the start they had last year. The difference being that this year they played a bunch of really good teams early, and teams that not only were good, were projected to be good, but actually ended up being good. So it really feels like this is a good team, where last time it felt like, hey, we might be pretty good, and then we saw all the cracks. There's cracks still. I mean, you lose your second best pitcher, your starting pitcher, and that's trouble. Your bullpen's still sorting itself out. But they score a lot of runs. Some of it unconventionally. But if Pete is really going to play this well now, he added Kyle Tucker. Didn't call him Michael that time. And you're getting actual offense out of the catchers. Seems pretty good. And we talked a little bit about how Moises Ballesteros is crushing the ball at Iowa, and there just really isn't any place for him. He's either a mediocre catcher or your DH, and the Cubs, or I guess he could play some first, but he's not. You're not going to play him. Somebody could get hurt, right? One of the catchers could get hurt. Michael Busch could get hurt. God forbid. Actually, any of the outfielders could get hurt, and then Seiya goes to the outfielder. Seiya's one who gets hurt. At some point, there's probably going to be a spot for him to come up and play. But when everybody's healthy, there really isn't a place for him unless they. And I wasn't kidding about this. Like, if this was the Jim Hendry Cubs, he'd be getting a crashed course on third base as we speak, and it would be terrible. They'd be like, "All right, you're gonna be Pablo Sandoval, Kung Fu Panda 2." But we'll see. But Matt Shaw had 4 hits the other night for Iowa. I know that apparently a couple of them look like minor league fielders were fielding them. Probably should have been outs, but it's 4 hits. And he said something interesting about, I don't know whether to believe it or not. I'm going to choose to believe it. He feels like he got out of whack because he tried to change his approach and then wasn't able to work on it as much in spring training because of the oblique injury. But that he was literally speeding his swing up because he anticipated he would need to do that to hit velocity in the big leagues. And he could never feel like he could get his timing right. And it contributed to the low hard hit rate. Because in the minors, he consistently hits the ball hard. And he didn't do it in the big leagues. And it could be that, or it could be that Major League Pitching is better and harder to hit. And but he thinks now getting back to Iowa, he's going to play for a while. He's back to his regular swing, wiggling his tushy at the pitcher and still taking the big leg kick. But now that he will get himself back to being on time, and he's not going to worry. He feels like he can handle the velocity without fucking up his swing. So we'll see, because the Cubs, as currently constituted, really, really need him to come back and play. We don't need Nicky Lopez. We don't need Vidal flopping around over there. And it would be nice to have Birdie back as the utility guy, and with the ability to pick a spot late in the game and pinch run him. But right now they're gonna have to just play him at third almost every day because he's the least objectionable option down there. He plays consistently good defense at third, and he gives you something on offense. He doesn't give you any pop, but he hits for a decent average, and he can still run. So that's not nothing. But it is troubling. Like when they shifted the lineup around today, ended up with Nico hitting 5th. No, you can't have that. Can't have the guy with the career 320 slug batting fifth. So there's a hole there. And they're going to have to decide sometime in probably June, is Matt Shaw the guy? Can he really do it? Or are we going to have to go get a third baseman for the rest of the year? Which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but it's just another thing they're going to need. Their shopping list is getting longer than they wanted. So, but that always happens. Anyway, so I came on just because I wanted to do a dramatic reenactment of the Neifi snowball incident, but I ended up talking for almost an hour. So, thanks a lot, and Dave and I will be back on Tuesday to talk baseball. So, see you then.
Many of us have herpes.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.
It's fitting. It's got to be done with one of the best games of all time. Just unbelievable. Got to congratulate the Dolan family.
Sean, my podcast co-host Andy, you were his favorite player growing up.
Oh, thank you so much, awesome.